There's a moment that hits every leader at some point. Someone asks you a question in a high stakes situation, all eyes are on you, and you feel your brain rifling through your mental file cabinet only to find a whole lot of nothing. And a lot of leaders are going to panic in that moment. They might start filling the space, they might hedge or guess or over explain, but there's a reflex to talk, and many leaders will do almost anything but stay still. But I'm going to give you some tough love here. How you handle not knowing the answer is often the loudest signal that you're sending of who you are as a leader. This happened to me just a few weeks ago as part of a messaging playbook engagement. I proposed to a client an entirely new ideal customer, one they hadn't even considered before. Kind of scary, right? Like there's a lot going on there. They could be thinking, well, why haven't we thought of this? Or maybe because we haven't thought of it, what makes you believe that this is the right thing? And the reality is we'd done the research, we'd stress tested it from every angle that we possibly could, and the logic was really tight. But then the CEO leaned in and asked, is there any real world evidence that this is our target? Any trade publications or articles in a major publication that you can point to? And the reality is I didn't have that. So I felt it. I felt that kind of jolt in my chest at that moment because we had done the research, right? But we don't have access to their customers directly to just ask them, right? So I had a choice. I could scramble, over-explain, and bury the gap in noise, or I could stay grounded. And so I'm going to tell you exactly what we did in just a few minutes. Welcome to the Storyteller's Edge. This is where we break apart a lot of the moments that leaders usually overthink and rebuild them with clarity and pressure-tested reasoning and narrative discipline. Today, we're tackling a leadership myth that creates more damage than any messaging mistake. It's the belief that leaders have to have all of the answers on demand. They don't. You don't. When you're in a meeting room or a place where there's a lot of pressure to have the answers, what's often happening is the room isn't really evaluating your knowledge, your basic knowledge. They're evaluating your center of gravity. Where do you draw the line? Where do you stick your neck out? When you don't know something, what they're actually watching for is whether you stay grounded or you scramble. And that's what signals authority, is that kind of maintaining your center of gravity. Here's the real pattern that I see with a lot of the folks that I work with. When a leader gets a question they can't answer yet, the problem isn't that information or fact gap. It's the instinct to fill that gap with noise. Noise can make you look unsure. It creates diversion. It erodes trust faster than saying, I don't know yet, ever will. And this is why I don't know yet isn't the liability that people think it is. You can say, I don't know yet, as long as you frame it the right way. I'm going to show you. This is a time to show restraint and clarity and command. So I'm going to give you a dead simple sort of 3-step framework. This is not a script. It's just a basic structure, and it's really easy to remember. Number 1, just acknowledge the question that you get without flinching, right? That just shows that you're steady. That's a great question. Let me make sure I got your question right. I'm going to say it back to you with different words. Let me frame this correctly. All you're doing is acknowledging the question without any defensiveness. Next, what you can do is anchor to what's true. Now, I have a TV background. I watched reporters for a long time. And one of the great things about kind of putting your reporter hat on is all you do is you explain what is happening at the moment. So what you do is when you anchor to what's true, you're showing that you're grounded. Here's what I know for sure. Here's what we've already understood about this situation. Here's the solid ground that we have right now. You're just laying out the cards that you currently have. You're not laying out your hand or what you're going to play. You're just laying out, these are the cards that I have to play right now, right? But the next thing you do is now you define the path to get the ultimate answer that you need to get to. And this shows that you're leading. You're not really guessing. So here's what I'm going to be able to confirm in a few weeks. Here's what we expect to clear up in over the next few days. Here's how we plan to close our knowledge gap that we have right now. I'm going to bring some additional reporting back to you at this time. And all this does is you've got a really fast sequence that in reality takes about 10 seconds to say, but it does change the power dynamic. So I'm going to go through it again really quick. All you do is you acknowledge the question without flinching, anchor to what's true right now in this moment, and then define the path to the real answer. That's all there is to it. So back to that moment with the CEO that I mentioned at the top, here's what I did. I walked them through what we knew and how we came to know those things, our process, our findings, where the logic pointed. Then I said, we can look for more validation in reports, and I'm happy to go out and look for press clippings, but ultimately, you need to test this with real conversations with real customers. We'd already given them the short list of targets that they could actually test it with, but we didn't have access to those targets, or we would have asked those questions. That's the reality. Nobody has a crystal ball. So here's what we know right now, but here's what's going to happen in order for us to close that knowledge gap. And it wasn't the perfect answer, but it was an honest answer, and it gave them a path forward. And that's the move, really. Say what you know, name what you don't, and just point to the next step to close that knowledge gap. So next time someone throws a question at you that you can't answer on the spot, just try that. Start with your center of gravity, give them the truth that you do have, then define the path that you need to get to the next level. So what I want you to kind of think about is that trust isn't built by having all of the answers. It really isn't. Trust is given to that leader who knows exactly what to do when all of the answers aren't clear. That's what gives you that gravitas that, we think of when we think of a true leader. Listen, if this is the kind of pressure that you're facing in your world, navigating uncertainty in front of people who matter, then this is exactly the work that I do inside narrative coaching. Because really being that leader, being the authority is having clarity under pressure without a script. It's the posture that you present. Thanks for listening to The Storyteller's Edge. I'll see you next time.